My name is Dr. Olaokun Soyinka. I am the husband of Lola Soyinka, who is the director of Aki Festival. I'm a medical doctor specializing in public health, and my most recent appointment was as the Commissioner for Health in Ogun State. I'm currently, however, taking a break, which has given me a great opportunity to get stuck in even more than ever in the preparations and the actual running of the Aki Festival 2015. You want to know what the current writers are doing in terms of critiquing our governments. And I would answer that by saying that they're doing a good job, probably not great. And the reason I think is because I don't think they're really getting to grips with the analysis of our problems and voicing the solutions. Many writers are getting a bit distracted by partisanship, be it political, be it ethnic. But we have had a long tradition and a very proud tradition of anti-establishment, or at least almost rebellious activist journalism and writings. And with the internet, of course, coming on stream, Nigeria has embraced it very thoroughly. So amidst all the what I would call second-rate stuff, I think if there are some very good writers out there, journalists especially, who are taking up the challenge and who are holding a very critical, casting a very critical eye over our recent governments. I would say that, for example, President Jonathan, by any stretch of the imagination, was not really a high-flying president, not a great performer. But during his tenure, we as Nigerians seemed, and I'm now referring to those spokesmen and women, the writers who make public commentary, they seem to be so ready to lower their standards and accept the second rate for Nigeria. And I always used to say, look, if we say we are the giant of the African continent, then our president should be a giant on the African continent. We should have a Mandela, and we should not be happy to look at somebody who is presented to us just because they, by good luck, got into a certain position, and then say, yeah, okay, he's great, and all the qualities that the writers used to, they never looked at what they were writing. If they actually examined their own writing, they would realize that all the qualities they ascribed to our last president were qualities of negativity, of absence. So he's a good listener, but he doesn't talk, he's not assertive, he's humble, he's not, aggressive and outgoing. Meanwhile, those are slightly passive negative qualities. He takes his time, he's friendly, maybe that's not what we need in a president. Maybe we needed somebody more like President Obasanjo, combative, not at all humble, very assertive. I think our writers really let us down in terms of just saying, okay, he's our president, so let's laud him, let's applaud, let's big up his small achievements and what have you. I'm not obsessed with Jonathan. I'm using it as an example of why our writers, our public commentators, really didn't do Nigeria any favors. We accepted the mediocre as good enough for us, and I think we need to start thinking. I know Nigerians think big, and I think our writers need to think big too, and encourage us to think even bigger. Why are our current writers not being included in all those sources of education, the curriculum and what have you? I would say it's a classic problem with Nigerian bureaucracy. If you look around, if you look at what society is doing, society is recognizing these writers, embracing them, publicizing them, critiquing and dialoguing about them. But when it comes to putting curricula together, it's very much a government job. And there you have a problem with our slow, rather conservative civil service and policy making environment. Before you get anything onto a syllabus in Nigeria, and I've had opportunity to try that, There's a massive resistance to change. Not for, there may be possibly political undertones, but I think it's just that natural conservative tendency to resist change. You know, it's okay, it's working, this is how we've always done it, why should we rock the boat? Kind of thing. And then even if they do agree to change it, you get into some cumbersome process. Committees are set up and committee to review the old curriculum, and then a document is submitted that has reviewed the old curriculum, and then the recommendations are debated. And I don't need to to go on. You can see why we're having trouble amending the curricula to include current crop of new writers. And I would also add that it's not only that that's been affected. School curricula need to be, the world is moving fast. We want the new generation to absorb things that we may not have had the chance to absorb in school, but we know are now out and pervasive in society. So, things that have drifted off, there's definitely not enough attention and not enough focus on the arts in curricula. And I say that as somebody who considers himself a scientist, but there's also not enough attention on civics. We set up an agency. For example, I think the National Orientation Agency, it should be scrapped. Whatever they're doing should be what we're putting into school curricula so that people grow up and they don't need an agency to give them an orientation to be a good citizen. I don't think there's enough health education in schools. That needs to be put on curricula, but it's not there in enough detail. It's not getting there. People think that if you teach people biology and then put a little bit of extra information and that's enough health information. No, we need a lot of changes. So we need to change the system so that the system itself means curricula can be responsive and change literally from year to year, and also have local flexibility. These things shouldn't be controlled entirely from the federal level. The states do have, opportunity to make changes too, and they're also not doing it. So, in summary, it's really government bureaucracy that's the problem there. It would take a very bright and diligent scientist to dig out that combination of nature and nurture that has turned me into what I am, but it's impossible to deny that it has been a massive influence in a number of ways. I mean, first of all, I'm a believer in a very straightforward mix of you inherit characteristics from your parents, and definitely I know there are some character traits that my father has that I have, and I'm sure I inherited them. Then, of course, there's the physical characteristics that I take as evidence that I must have inherited some of his character, and I hope the good parts. Then there's, of course, the influence of him as a role model, and I think that's been probably more than average, because not only do you have him as a role model in the home, but you have him as this nationally known figure who has certain reputation, and it's a reputation that I, especially as the first son, should not be in a hurry to spoil or to fail to uphold. So that definitely has influenced my determination, if you like, not to to disgrace the name. So I think it has probably made me more honest. It has made me more determined. It has definitely given me the feeling that one has a duty to try and make an impact on society and not live a selfish life that's all about just being okay yourself. And of course, one of the influences it's had is the fact that people kind of ascribe some of his qualities to you, and therefore they give you, it opens doors. Nigeria is a place, it's very difficult to get trust, to have people give you the benefit of the doubt. But when you have a father like Wole Soyinka, I think people like to think you'll be an okay person, you will not be a crook, a 419. So you have a more easy networking, easy ability to link up with people, to get suggestions accepted, and to have people trust. Well, my life has been a mix of being always in the environment of the arts. So when I was growing up, I grew up for example, on the University of Ibadan campus, and all my uncles and aunties, they were all actors, actresses, painters, carvers, anybody who was involved in the theater arts, on UI, for example. So when I decided to go into science, to become a doctor, I did it in the kind of knowledge that I guess the arts would always be around me, so I didn't need to become an artist to enjoy that environment. Aki Festival is that hope very much come true. I've been able to come here and feel very much at home with the type of people I am around, and almost get flashbacks from the past when you're sitting around people who are just so spontaneous, enthusiastic, creative, relaxed, informal, hedonistic, and what have you. So along with that is the fact that I married, of course, Lola, who's the director of the festival, and we've gone through a lot of brainstorming and thinking about it, and I'm always present with the planning. So to see it come to life and bring out some of the themes that we've had in this one have been very exciting for me. So to what I've learned from the festival, or what I feel I've gained, I've really, really enjoyed having this particular theme actualize the issue of the fringe and engaging the fringe. And some of the fringe we're talking about all revolve around some of the more controversial topics in Nigeria, the gender diversity. Of course, there's also things like corruption and politically sensitive issues. But the fringe, I think I've gained the most because I believe that one of the reasons that Nigeria is such a troublesome place is we don't take enough time to understand the other, understand what is different. When you understand what is different, then you tolerate what is different. Doesn't mean you condone it. Nobody is saying that you must love and approve of everything. What we're saying is there's too much hate, there's too much judgmentalism, there's too much violence and conflict, and that understanding will reduce that. So having the opportunity to sit down with a whole array of people, for example, of different sexualities, bisexuals, male homosexuals, lesbians, and even a transgender. The highlight for me was conducting the interview with the lady who's here, Imani da Silva, who's a transgender. And the pleasure of being in an audience that was mystified. I'm a doctor, so I do know a reasonable amount about it, so it's an advantage. But I still had a lot of questions myself, and a lot I wanted to learn about this whole business. What is it like being a woman trapped in a man's body? What is it like going through the process of escaping? But I'm trying to draw a general point here, which is that the audience went through the same process I went through. We understood. This was a human being who had a mother and a father and brother and a sister who all went through this trauma. Each had to face their own problems with what they thought was a brother becoming a sister, what they thought was a son becoming a daughter. You realize there's a real human story. There's emotions, there's ups, there's highs, there's lows, there's tragedies, there's difficulties, there's conflict. And once you understand that there's a real human story here, then you get less judgmental. You say, wow, I'm just happy I didn't have to go through all that. I'm happy that, I was born without having a major life battle given to me from the word go. And once you get that, and people said it when we got to, I left a lot of room for question and answer. I wanted to see how the audience were going to take it, and you could see people begin to ask certain questions from confusion, and you gradually felt the understanding spreading around the room. And one person stood up and said that when they learned about it, when they came into that room, they came in with a mindset. They came in with even angry. And by the time they listened, they begin to understand, and they know that they're now a more understanding person. And for me, that made the whole festival and the choice of Lola, of that theme by Lola, worthwhile, because I know the same thing happened in many of the other sessions. So we have some Nigerians now who are more understanding and more tolerant. So for me, that's the highlight of this conference. I learned a lot, and I take that away from this festival. But I would also add that as a a series of entertaining and enlightening. I mean, that's just part of it. Of course, there's been a whole load on just all the various authors who have been here, the books that they've written, paintings and photographs exhibited, a performance yesterday, a documentary on a heroic doctor from Angola. You know, I mean, I would need another hour to tell you what I really enjoyed in the Aki Arts and Book Festival. It's been great being part of the organization and seeing it all come to life. It's been great seeing all the celebrities, the artists and writers that I admire, and it's been great seeing them come here and also have a great time themselves. Because sometimes you think these people are so big that, you know, you bring them somewhere and it's like, okay, I've done my bit, please let me go. No, they're all hanging around saying, right, I'm having so much fun. In fact, I've changed my flight, I'm staying an extra day and all that kind of thing. It's been a great festival.